Everyone wants to leave a legacy of positivity in the world around them. Whether you are a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, a nonprofit executive director, or even a soon-to-be entrepreneur, one fact is always true. The easiest and most effective way to catalyze change in the world around you is through commerce and through business. But how do you do it? You've come to the right place. Welcome to the Changemakers Collective, a place where people can come and get educated and encouraged and empowered to be the impact agent in the world around them. Brought to you by Silverback Ventures, Steff Thomas and Scott Woods have over 50 years combined experience helping companies and owners amplify the voice and multiply the impact of purpose-driven businesses. Join us each week as we discuss what it means to live a life of purpose on purpose.
Hey, welcome back to the Changemakers Collective. You already know who we are, so I'm not introducing ourselves. We're going to do part 2 of the understanding the difference between pain of brokenness and pain of progress by really diving into how do you differentiate between the two and how do you know that what you're trying to do to progress is not going to cause you more pain on the back end.
Or injury.
Yeah. I know, like, going back to my knee replacement surgery, there are certain exercises that my therapist will say, absolutely, positively, do not do these unless under the supervision of me. The same goes for your business. You should not make crazy changes in your business without first understanding and counting the cost and planning for those changes to be made.
So when we were preparing for this, our podcast with Nava Studios, Kristen suggested that we talk about, okay, when do you make the transition between contract people versus W-2 people? How do you know when to scrap your business and start all over, which you should not scrap your business and start
Call us
all
before
over.
you do that.
Right. Or when do you really move from this being a hobby to being a business, or making a decision that you thought it was a business and it's really a hobby? So all of those things cause injury to your already painful situation.
Yeah, and they could all be good. This is an I statement, really like to use this method that I read in a fantastic book called Fly Into the Wind by Lieutenant Colonel Dan Rooney, the guy that started Folds of Honor that provides scholarships to military families that have had someone die because as part of being in the military. He was a fighter pilot and fighter pilots use this thing called the OODA loop. And it stands for observe, orient, and decide and act. And it's a constant feedback loop. So he said, when you're flying a jet plane at, the speed of sound, you have to make split-second decisions, but you're constantly being bombarded with new inputs. Same thing when you're running your business. If you're trying to scale your business, it's not like you say, okay, I'm going to have, a business selling napkins, and you just say, whoop, selling napkins, and 9 zillion people coming by. You're constantly being bombarded, especially now when we're dealing with uncontrollable inputs. All of a sudden, a product you were buying from China or Europe, the price is now triple because of the new tariffs that have been put into place.
Right. Or the shipping is slower.
Yes. Yeah. We have a client that used to be able to get product from Africa in 30 days. It's now 75.
Right. At a triple cost.
You can't, those are things you can't control, but you have to react to those new inputs utilizing this OODA loop. So you observe where you are. What are the new inputs that are coming into your life or to your business? And then you have to orient yourself as to, okay, how does this affect me? What is the, we talked about this with our amazing podcast producer. The pain of change has to be less than the pain of staying the same. Right?
Let's talk about our podcast person for a second.
You orient yourself to those situations.
So, in the middle of COVID is how her business was formed. And so right now, a lot of people got loans or or whatever, and they started a business during COVID. People that, great businesses, but were a W-2 before they
jumped off into the entrepreneurial world. Yep.
And so, there are some struggles that you have that a long-term business owner would know that you wouldn't. So the OODA loop would be a great example of when you're scaling your business for those people that have no idea where to go from here. What's their next? How do they scale? They're successful, but how do they observing, orient, decide, and act is a real thing for them.
It's a real-time exercise 100% of the time in your business. And frankly, it's 100% of the time in your life. You're constantly being bombarded with decision points throughout your life that you have to take in that input, understand where you are, understand how it fits into your worldview. You have to make a decision. Do I go left or do I go right? And then you act. And I think a lot of business owners get stuck, especially process-minded business owners will get stuck on the first two, orienting and observing and orienting. So they're constantly looking for data points. I just need more data.
Scott, you crack me up because sometimes we'll go and people say, well, we're gonna get more data. We're gonna and you're like, what are you gonna do with that?
Yes.
Like, why are you wasting your time? What are you doing with that? So not all data is usable data.
Oh, 100%. I did some work for a humongous healthcare firm here in the Charlotte market. And they were always talking about how proud they were of the fact that they had discharge data on every hospital discharge in the entire United States. And it was going to become extraordinarily valuable. And I said, well,
who cares?
They built entire buildings to house people to collect this data and had no idea what to do with it. None. And I said, you're spending billions and billions of dollars on something that you have no understanding of how to monetize it. You have no understanding of how it's going to help you hit your vision better. So why are you doing that? And I think I was like that. I was, coming from an accounting background, I was very much A plus B has to equal C, and until E equals C, I'm not going to move forward. And you get stuck in the observing and orienting phase that you don't ever come to a decision point.
So I think as you are deciding to move forward, evaluating the correct things that help you move forward is very different than, well, we've always collected that, or we've always monitored that, or we've always looked at that. And again, I hear you say a lot, how do you monetize that? How does that help scale your business? Or, what are you doing with that? And when they can't answer that, you're like,
yeah, stop.
You're right.
Just stop.
Spend
You've got
that
to
energy
move on.
somewhere else.
And I think going back to how do you decide or discern between moving in a direction that's going to cause you brokenness versus moving in a direction that's going to cause some pain, but it's going to get you progressing. You have to be able to orient your decision in terms of where your business is going or where your personal life is going and where you ultimately want to go. That's why we spend so much time talking about vision casting, so much time talking about what is your destination, what are the values that are keeping you on the mountain, and what are the mission objectives to get there. And if you orient every decision around those three components, you're always going to make an informed decision. Is it going to be the right one always? No. But that's why you have that. It's a continuous feedback loop. So you observe, you orient, you decide. And notice that the side and act are two different steps, not one.
A lot of times what I see is people will do the first three.
Yes. That's why there's four.
And then quickly make a decision and not let the decision during the act phase take hold. But during the act phase, immediately pivot. So there's good pivots and there is, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Let's see how this plays out for a second.
Well, and I think what's cool about the feedback loop is that you don't go from, you go from observe to orient to decide to act. You don't, after the act, you don't go to decide.
Right.
You go back to observe the outcome. So you make a decision, You have to let that decision play out. You have to see what the results are of that decision. You have to reobserve and then reorient yourself to, okay, what are the consequences of decision A and how did they play out? I'm observing, I'm orienting, I'm deciding again, do we pivot or do we continue down that path? And then you act again. That's why it was so interesting the way Rooney wrote the book is he wrote it in terms of how you do business through the lens of a fighter pilot going at the speed of sound, getting shot at and having to decide whether I'm going to bank right or I'm going to bank left. And one of them does results in you being blown out of the sky. And the other one results in you surviving.
Right.
Like you don't have a lot of time to make those decisions. That's why, that's why you have to have smart people around you that you can say, hey, I observe this. This is the circumstance. I'm orienting to where I want to go and how I want to get there. I think I have choice between A and B. Surround yourself with truth tellers that are going to say, my observation is you should choose A. My observation is you choose A. My observation is choose A. And then if you choose B.
Okay, but Scott, that is what I see happen a whole lot, right? So it's unfortunate, but it is the habit of some business owners to surround themselves with people that tell them they're great all the time. In any situation, I say it's the emperor in the new clothes scenario all the time. So if everybody on your team is telling you how great you are, you probably should have a conversation with your team that just says, hey, but how do you really feel about this? What decisions do we need to make as a team? Because if you're the smartest person in the room, you probably need some more people in the room with you.
Or you need to be in a different room altogether.
Yeah, there's that.
I mean, I think you're absolutely right. And I think this goes back to our conversation around what true leadership looks like. True leadership is about humility and service and making sure that everything you're doing as a leader is enabling, encouraging, empowering others to act to help you get your business or your life, for that matter, to the degree and to the pinnacle of your vision. And if you're surrounding yourself with people who aren't going to speak truth to you, hear my heart, that's a you problem, not a them problem.
Well, there's pride in that, right? So sometimes
that's an atmosphere the leader creates.
Right. And sometimes people call us and they are in that scenario 100%. But those are the same people that when we say, hey, this is going to go sideways here because we've seen this before.
Yep.
And they say, well, no, the whole team thinks it's great. It's a great idea. But have you asked them other questions? And so, that's sometimes why a third party is good.
You have to have people that are going to shoot straight with you. There is no time.
Well, and you have to receive it.
Yeah, there's no time to waste. One of the reasons we set up this company and set up this podcast was we wanted to talk to people who want to change the world. If you're of the mindset that I want to make the world a better place, there's a sense of urgency that's different than, hey, I just want to sell the next package or I just want to sell this next product. You want every step and every moment that you make a decision and you take an action to be impactful in a real way. And if you're spending time just breaking your arm, patting each other on the back for something you don't even know if it's a good idea or not, you're not making any progress. So the pain that you're going to experience from not having told the truth about what you thought about this idea, not orienting and observing and deciding what is truly good for your life or for your business is going to cause you pain. So when you go through the process of observe, orient, deciding, and acting, it happens real time, but it has to happen on a continuous basis. And when you go down a path,
create an environment.
Yeah, when you go down a path where it leads to injury, the product flopped and you spent all this money, you've got to orient yourself to not make that decision again.
Or when it's of no no fault of your own, right? So again, back to the one company who, because of the tariffs, they've had to pivot and rethink, where do we ship things to? How much product do we need in states versus in a different one? Well, that group needed a team of people that are subject matter experts in their area, and everybody had to have their listening ears on.
Yes. You know, we had to help a company pivot away from losing 80% of their budget because of shutting down of an international aid agency. Well, if you don't have a methodology to observe, orient, and decide and act, you can get easily stuck in, what are we going to do? And what about this? And how about that? And you just get caught in this endless loop of indecision that doesn't get you any closer to the goal. And I think that's where the pain of injury just gets worse. It's like taking out your thumb and just beating it with a hammer over and over and over and over and over again. Until you decide not to beat your thumb with a hammer, you're not going to be able to move forward and get your thumb healed.
So in the first part of this, we were talking about the pain of progress. So healthy stuff, but it's
still hard.
It's hard. This time we're talking about the pain of injury, where whether it's your issue or no fault of your own and just whatever's going on in the world, then you can still do things that really hurt you, not just today, but long term.
Right. Yeah.
So, you know, having a rhythm method or a OODA loop or a self-assessment that is authentic, and that's where we're going with, right? An authentic observation of your company. If you don't do that, you're going to injure yourself till you're critical.
Yeah, I think that's so well said, because most companies are under the mindset, if we build it, they'll come. And
that's a wish list.
Once we start building it, then we can just sit back and just do the same thing, rinse and repeat forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. At the pace in which the world is changing and technology is progressing today, you can't do that. You're constantly having to reinvent. But if you don't know what you're trying to accomplish long term, you're going to reinvent yourself in a way that is going to be a spider web of products and services that are going to wear you thin.
Well,
whereas if you can have, have a focused approach to getting to your end goal, now your decision-making process, whether it be Rhythm, which is also a fantastic book.
Yes, it is.
Or the OODA loop, you now have a framework in which to work to make the decisions so that you're always progressing, even if it's painful, towards the end goal that you're trying to accomplish.
I would like to make a live example of what we're talking about.
Go for it. That's exciting.
Blockbuster and Netflix, who we have no association with whatsoever.
Certainly not the former.
Blockbuster said, no one's going to go to a kiosk and buy a movie. Redbox said, actually, they will. So Redbox started doing it and basically shut down single-handedly Blockbuster. Then Redbox said, well, no one will stream movies. And COVID happened, and everybody streamed movies. And Netflix went from a small subscription that maybe a handful of people that we knew had, but we didn't have ourselves, to, I would say Netflix is in most people's home. If not Netflix, PureFlix is, one or the other. And you can watch the movie that's at the movie theater at the same time for, the good old price of $29.99.
Yep.
They pivoted, they listened, they observed, and they keep changing. So now that, okay, everybody's sharing their subscription, okay, we're going to lock that down too. It's so locked down that if there's 4 TVs in your house, if 2 people are watching it, the third person is not watching Netflix. But they keep pivoting so that their company is growing. Well, I think
they're pivoting because they are, again, that's why the analogy of flying this fighter jet at speed of sound is so good. Because the only way to progress is to look ahead. And they're going, okay, we're observing what's happening in the marketplace. We're orienting ourselves to what our end goal is. We see the side of the mountain coming at us at 100 miles an hour, 1,000 miles an hour, we know we're going to have to make a decision.
Or die.
Yeah, and we're not going to get stuck in that decision paralysis spot where you just don't make, you're just collecting data. Like, we have to make a decision. And I think we end up finding more businesses that are just, they're either making business changing decisions so frequently that you don't ever have a time to observe the decision, the result of that decision, or they're taking so long to make the decision that by the time they make the decision, you've already run into the side of the mountain.
Well, so, okay, that's a good point, Scott. Sometimes, okay, I am all about strategic planning. I love it. I think you should. I think you need to. I think it is a way to set a goal and move forward with it.
Yep.
But if you're always in strategic planning mode, then
You don't
nothing
actually ever
really
do
gets
anything.
done.
Yeah. Yeah, that's absolutely true. I feel the same way about business plans. You know, it used to be when we were coming up through business school, you had to go to the bank to get a loan with a business plan. And it was like a 40, 50-page document. It took forever to write.
They would go back and tell you more things that you needed to change or add.
And now business is changing so quickly that that document is obsolete the minute you write it.
Right.
So let's get to a point where we're taking in as much information as is necessary to make a decision, but then we decide and move, decide and move, decide and move. You know, the military is the most well-run business in the world. However you feel about it, and the acronyms will drive you crazy. However, their process of taking in as much information in a split second, making a decision and going, if more businesses acted that way, there'd be a much more efficient delivery of your product. But the only way it works is if you know what the objective is at the end of the story. And that every decision you make is framed by your vision of where you want to go, your values of what keeps you there, and your mission objectives to get to the task.
So, Scott, I want to throw a little wrench into your conversation.
Nice.
Love it. So, I am a huge fan of ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm.
I use it, but I also am not a huge fan of ChatGPT thinking for me. So what I've observed is sometimes I'm in a conversation with a business person, they're doing their business plan, and they've typed in a handful of things into ChatGPT, and they're like, well, this is what it said.
Yes.
ChatGPT is like everything else, junk in, junk out. So if you don't have clear guardrails, clear understanding, clear outlines of where you're going, ChatGPT cannot write your plan and tell you what to do day to day.
That's a true statement.
So having your own thought process, your own rhythm, your own, this is the objective that I want to reach, is a big deal.
I was just having a conversation the other day with a friend of mine, and he said the only assets that we're going to have as humans going into the next couple of decades is going to be our ability to creatively think about and problem solve.
And this guy uses a lot of
he is
ChatGPT.
He owns a technology company, and he is the most teched up guy you could ever meet. And he's like, the only thing we have is our creativity and our ability to connect seemingly unrelated things together to accomplish the goal. And he said, the only way that works is if we know what you're trying to accomplish. And we talk about it. I'm sure you guys are all sick and tired of us talking about vision, but it is absolutely the only pathway forward. You have to know what you're trying to solve for, and then work backward to what you have to accomplish, and then observe, orient, decide, and act.
I think that's a great point, right? So, you know, some people say, well, we've got to write the business plan before we do vision casting.
Yeah.
We've got to strategize before we vision cast. Well, what are you strategizing about if you don't have a vision? And your vision statement isn't 23. I mean, I know we've said this before. It's a statement. It is not a book.
It's a solve, right? So, I mean, as we talk about the pain and how to differentiate between the pain of progress and the pain of injury, you have to be able to reframe what's causing the pain in light of those things we just talked about. And as you're progressing out of that pain or progressing through that pain, and this is true personally and professionally, you have to be able to recognize that the pain of progress is temporary and it's going to get you to where you want to go.
Yes.
The pain of injury is less temporary. That is something you could sit in and, the thumb example, just pound your thumb all day long. As an individual, as a business, reorient yourself to where you want to go. Decide how you're going to get there and go. You just have to continue to put one foot in front of the other. And it's going to be painful sometimes, but that's why you have people on your squad that are buying into where you want to go, how you want to get there. And then you are calling on experts to say, hey, help us to make that decision and move in a positive way.
So when you are calling on experts, don't forget that Silverback Ventures absolutely helps with those areas.
And we're super good at it. And we really, really, really enjoy helping people help people. And it sounds like a cliche. I know it sounds like a cliche, but that is totally the reason we set up this organization.
Absolutely.
Was to see people that want to change the world be able to do it in the most effective and efficient manner. Please let us help you. It'll be super fun. I promise.
So check out Silverback Ventures' other podcasts. Make sure to like and subscribe us. And we look forward to talking to you again.
Live a life of purpose on purpose.
Thank you for listening to the Changemakers Collective. If you've enjoyed this episode, please help us grow our community by leaving us a review on Apple Podcast or rating us on Spotify.
You can also find our podcast on YouTube, so you can come and leave us a comment over there as well. If you want support growing your business and scaling your vision, visit us at silverbackventures.org or connect with us on LinkedIn.
Thanks again, and we'll see you on our next episode.